Today's video, we are going to talk about lead scoring on Google Ads, how to optimize for better and better quality leads coming from your Google Ads spend on an ongoing basis that quote unquote typically don't close right away, because of course if your lead closes right away, you could just import the sales revenue that you got into your ad account and optimize off of that, which if you don't do that already, that in itself is the first step to riches with Google Ads. But in a lot of cases, the sales cycle drags on for months, if not years. We have some clients where it literally takes years to close a deal. We have medical equipment that we sell, scientific equipment that we sell that's in the 6 to 7 figure category, and it just takes this long for the customer to get funded and so forth. And this method works beautifully in order to get more out of our Google Ads spend, and you should be doing it as well for yourself. For that matter, I'm going to go over a case study here in the ADA consulting space to reference just how profitable this particular lead scoring strategy is and why you want to use it for yourself as well. I'll go over the hard numbers in terms of scoring the lead, what the score did, what the ROAS did, having the lead score as a part of your overall Google Ads strategy, and then what was the corresponding revenue that we got in terms of bump of increase in revenue to go along with the bump in increase in ROAS, adding lead scoring to the account for the account that we're running in this particular market. Stay tuned to the end of the video for this. With that said, I will make sure you understand how to do this strategy for yourself, and you'll walk away from this video with a money-making tool in your pocket ready to use. Before I get into the actual strategy itself though, I want to do a quick background. So I recently did a video on adding a quote-unquote default conversion value on all the conversion goals that setting up in your Google Ads account. So you set up conversion goals to track things that correlate with purchases, form fills, phone calls, live chat engagements, going further from there, leads that are qualified, leads that where you set an appointment, so on and so forth. And you ideally want to set up a goal for each step of the sales process. And if you're doing e-commerce, for you e-commerce guys just watching this anyway, you do each step of the sales process as well. Add to cart, view cart, hit checkout page, got to the success page on the checkout. All of that should be tracked individually because it gives Google Ads the most data to utilize to optimize your ads with, given that you may say, well, if it's got the sales data, why does it need the rest? Well, it gets more data sooner, tracking each step of the process, which lets them make decisions sooner for certain keywords, certain audiences, and so forth, because each keyword needs a certain amount of data behind it for them to know if that keyword works or an audience works and so forth. And so the more data you have, and the quicker you obtain it, and assuming it's relevant data, the more results you're going to get with your ads earlier on in the process. Whereas long-term, you eventually, when you have 10,000 sales, you don't need it in this other data. But before then, it helps out tremendously. What I mentioned on this video about adding a conversion value or a default conversion value to your conversion goals is, when you're doing lead generation, since we're talking about that on this video, is find out itself if a particular lead set an appointment and you're tracking appointment sets, whether they were able to set an appointment with the person, and then also presumably if you track the actual sale, whether the sale occurred or not, you track those two things individually, which you should do if you want the most results out of ads, as I mentioned earlier. If that person that set the appointment itself, if that person was quoted a certain amount during the appointment, that should be your conversion value that you add on that particular goal, because it'll give Google a bit more data if you can add it. That said, a lot of times the appointments never get any revenue, or you can't get it or whatever. So in that particular case, what you try to do is you take all the revenue from all the appointments that you normally set and come from the appointments itself, and then you divide that essentially by the amount of appointments that you get, and then you get basically an average value per appointment. And you add that as your conversion value on the goal to give Google more clarity as to what this particular goal is worth in context to the sales goal, which would be offer and have a higher conversion value number than this goal for setting appointments, given it normally sets or generates, if you will, less revenue as a whole. Ultimately, every goal in the sales process, Google is going to weight differently based upon the propensity of revenue being generated for people that hit each stage in the sales process. If they're setting an appointment, the likelihood that that person turns into a sale is more than if they just filled out the form. But the propensity of the person who set the appointment is not as much as somebody who got a proposal. And so Google should value people that fill out a proposal and that goal that we haven't tracked that more than the appointment goal, and so on and so forth. That all assumes, if you will, that you can track pretty well everything in terms of sales, so on and so forth. There's occasions where you just want to score the lead and then use the lead score to steer the campaigns. Given that the higher the number on the conversion value, particularly when you're using maximize conversion value bidding strategy, the more Google's going to weight that particular goal and weight that particular thing that drives a higher conversion value. So what you essentially do is you score, let's say, and this is just one way to do it, and I'm going to go over the particulars here in a minute, but you score between 1 and 10 a so-called lead that comes in so that you're ultimately going to track whether a lead's qualified or not, and then the conversion value, you're going to have the value be somewhere between 1 and 10 based upon that lead's likelihood to close or the deal size or a combination thereof. You could actually do any one of those three, and then that will make sure Google has more context about these leads that are coming in, and are they of the size/quality that you want so that Google can optimize for more of them. One use for this can be to ultimately, that is the conversion value part of every conversion goal, given that every conversion goal has a component there that tells Google that this happened or not, and then the value, you take that value box, you can use it for putting in this so-called lead score to have Google optimize for better quality leads for you moving forward. And that lead score comes in particularly useful when you got long sales cycles, for one, sales cycles that go beyond the typical amount of time that it takes to close a sale, 30 days, 60 to 90 days, or you use it when you have huge deal sizes, which is basically one and the same, because the bigger the average ticket, the longer the average sales cycle window length, or length of time it takes to close a sale on average. And then you want to, first of all, there's a limit on how long you can upload a sales event to your account. But beyond that, or besides that, even if there wasn't, you want to get more immediate feedback to Google about where to place your next bets at, if you will, or your next spend at. If you can score a lead and get immediate feedback to Google that day about whether that lead was qualified or not, versus waiting even 90 days for a sale to come through, you're getting ahead of it 90 days sooner. Now, that data is not, of course, the same quality as knowing for sure if that person bought or not, but you can get it drilled down enough where it's 80% as accurate as the sales data actually is, and therefore you got a 90-day quicker turnaround on the money that you're spending and then what the impact of it was in terms of your bottom line in your business, so you can make your optimizations in your account much sooner. And the lead score method, that is, instead of goals to just have the amount of revenue that that goal presumably drives for your business, and you use lead score in its place for that value component on the conversion goal, is great when you have a great variety of different leads as well, which the amount of presumed or predicted revenue that lead would generate, that's the best, if you will, on an individualized basis. But if you got a huge difference in leads that are coming in, you got some that are tire kickers, some that are whales, you got people that are going to want a $100,000 deal, they're going to want a $1,000 deal, and there's a great mix. The lead scoring method that I'm sharing with you here is absolutely key. It's not just fantastic, because it is, but it's absolutely key for you to make money with your ads, because there's 10% of the traffic in there that makes all your money, 10 to 20%. The 80-20 rule applies here, just like it does in many other parts of your business. So, of which you got to be able to drill in on that 10 to 20% of the leads that are actually worth going after. And the only way you do this is you got to give Google data about which leads are qualified. And the best way to do that, assuming that you can't really upload a sale and related sales revenue to Google, it's to score the lead and let the lead score do the talking for you as to which type of leads, all the leads that you're getting, that you want more of. So those are the reasons why you would use lead score as opposed to revenue, or so-called predicted revenue, if you will, which is always your option. You got lead score as the value, you can go that route, or you could do the actual revenue itself that essentially be coming from the lead. Google will only allow you to upload conversion data and related value of that conversion data for 90 days. That's the maximum time limit that they'll let you upload a conversion or correct it. In other words, if you typically do not close a sale within 90 days, you need to be using this lead scoring method, one of them, to make your campaigns more efficient on an ongoing basis. Otherwise, it's very likely you'll never be profitable, particularly, by the way, in B2B. That this is ultra important to use lead scoring in B2B. But even in consumer sales, where you're doing cleaning services or whatever, you still will massively benefit from actually scoring your leads and then letting Google have the lead score to optimize your campaigns for leads that have a higher score on average on an ongoing basis. The more leads they get, the more they understand how to get you a better quality lead that you would actually want. Right? When I say the typical sale closes within 90 days, I mean 80+% of leads close within 90 days. So in other words, if you typically look at you go through your sales data and you don't typically see at least 80% of deals closing within 90 days, you want to optimize based upon this so-called lead score versus optimizing for the sales revenue, because there's enough data that you're missing, in other words, with that particular scenario, that you're better off optimizing on a lead score than the actual sales revenue. And just to tell you kind of like the threshold or the cutoff where you would typically want to optimize for lead scores versus revenue. Now, here is the process actually setting up your campaigns, score your leads appropriately, and to have Google use the lead score that you're giving it to get you better results on an ongoing basis, because it absolutely will do that. Not maybe, but every time. It's just a matter of how much of a gain you're going to get from it. A lot of people question this because they really just don't want to do this. It's extra work they don't want to do. But baby, all the results with Google Ads is in how much work you're going to put in. Of course, you have to know what you're doing. You can't be a complete moron and just, be like a monkey with a blindfold on and just spinning around doing shit randomly, which you don't have to do because this channel tells you exactly what to do. Not maybe or kind of what to do, but exactly what you need to do. The strategies are all here. It's just a matter of whether you're going to put the work in and put systems in place that you'll actually follow through with these methods, because these are the methods that work and they are going to continue to work in your market because your competition's too lazy to do them, or they just don't know about them, or mostly lazy, and you're going to do them, and this is what works. The two processes of scoring leads are as follows. You could either A, take the contract value that you are assuming the contract to be worth. If you send, in other words, a proposal out for $1 million, you would take that $1 million times the likelihood of closing. If the likelihood of closing is 50%, you're going to take $1 million times 50%, and that's your so-called lead score, which is $500,000. This method is actually my favorite because it already accounts for not just the deal size itself. You want to optimize for a bigger deal, but it doesn't matter if some doofus, some airhead says he wants to spend $10 million, but he doesn't have a pot to piss in or 2 pennies to rub together. That lead ain't worth jack shit to us anyway. And I don't want Google to optimize for crap heads like that guy. This particular method of lead scoring takes care of that completely, because that guy is going to be that $1 million. We're going to take it times 10% for 10% likelihood of closing, and it's not going to be rated nearly as high as some guy that was just a regular guy but has a higher likelihood of closing. You have to be particularly ruthless with this and make sure your sales guys really understand that you have to, don't be head in the clouds with your grading of these leads in terms of, because sales guys are going to be optimistic by nature and to a fault. What's the real actual likelihood of this lead closing? Yes, you want this $1 million deal to close, but what is it? Is this guy really for real? Is it serious? And just as a secret, if you're not in sales yourself, at our own firm, I do all the sales at our firm, at our PPC firm. I can tell 90% of the time who's going to close when they reach out to my firm, just based upon the mannerisms and how they act. If they're really resistant to the process and they question everything, they're not going to do it because these people think that they're smarter than I am. And that's fundamentally not how the process works, essentially. Either hire me because they know I already know what I'm doing and they just go with it, or they don't and they don't. With that said, your salespeople also know this about your customers. They can get a general gut feel, even if they don't have much information, just based upon how people are speaking to them and what they're saying about what their needs are, to know what a realistic likelihood of closing a sale would be for that particular customer. And then they can score it 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever. And then you got a really good method to scale your campaigns with, because Google is going to optimize for big leads that are highly likely to close. And that's mostly what you want. Now, the other option you do, of course, have is the likelihood of closing. And so you can score the lead between 1 and 10. You would typically do this one more when there's lower variability between the leads that you have / deal sizes that you have, or customer average ticket that you have. So if you're a cleaning company and the difference between one guy and another guy is the difference between making $400 a month and $700 a month because the guy's got a 3-bedroom house versus a 5-bedroom house, then in that case, you're not going to really benefit nearly as much or as much doing this first method, because there's just not that big of a difference between one customer and the next. On the flip side, when you're talking about B2B services, literally, I tell people this all the time. They don't like to hear it, but I say, first of all, when you start advertising for B2B, you got to, again, find the 10% that works, and people don't want to do that. They just want it to work right away, of course. But beyond that, you're going to find that there's 1 in 100 deals that is going to pay for all of everything, all your ad spend, all of your office costs. You know, your average guy is spending $30K, but you got that $1 million deal that had sky-high margins, and that pays for everything. The other 99 are just paying your bills. The $1 million deal that you made $700,000 profit on paid for everything. If you're going to make money with B2B, you have to be in it with that mindset that this isn't going to be, let's get 10 or 20 leads and see if it works on Google Ads. No. I mean, you may get lucky. You really, really, really don't know how profitable a campaign is going to be until 2 things happen. One, you've had time to optimize the campaign using back-end conversion data. And I'm not just talking about 10 deals, but hundreds of deals. But until you've had hundreds of deals to see the really 1 in 100 come through. And you can see, okay, for this one out of the 100 that I got, it wouldn't have made sense on paper. It rarely ever does. That stops 90% of people having success with B2B, PPC on Google Ads particularly, because they're not going to see it out. They think they advertise for a little bit and it either works or it doesn't. You need a massive amount of data, and you got to be able to filter and get it down to where it works. And then you start making money, and it makes money from now on, probably for the next 10 or 20 years. And that's what makes it worth it. But they just look at it as, well, I've spent $15K and I only got half the ROI I was expecting, so it doesn't work. If I had an account like that, I mean, give me that account. I will just simply keep running with the offline conversion tracking data, pump that back into the account, double the ROI, and then it'll be working from now on. Give me that account. If you have an account like that, I'll take it over and I'll sell the leads back to you. You could take every lead and score it between 1 and 10, and then import that into your account through a offline conversion goal. In either case, you're going to set up a separate offline conversion goal to track the lead score itself. Why a separate goal? Well, you want other goals to track whether a form fill or a phone call or a live chat happened by itself. Why is that? Because you want to be able to optimize for just leads by itself at the beginning, because going back to what I was saying before, you need a massive amount of data, particularly early on, just to be able to have the system optimize it all. The machine learning algorithm that Google has needs a certain minimum amount of data. So even though sales data is better than form data, you get 10 times as much form data short term than you get sales data, and it needs hundreds of conversions to really do a decent amount of optimization already. Volume also matters, as well as, of course, quality, So what you do is you track everything at the beginning, and then eventually you start optimizing for different goals based upon the amount of data that you've amassed. First, you optimize for form fills, then it's appointments, then it's proposals sent, and then it's big proposals sent, and blah, 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 blah. One at a time, you start going down the process of getting closer and closer to optimizing for actual sales, and then furthermore, profit. But these offline conversion goals are building up data in the background for one day that you're going to start using it, whether it's 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in. The big mistake people make is they say, oh, I think this is going to work. They're optimistic by default. And then once it doesn't work on Google Ads, they're pessimistic by default. When really, if you would have just took my advice from the beginning and started tracking everything from the beginning, and you have half the ROI that you're supposed to have to be profitable 6 months in, you could actually immediately do something, which is to take all the data that you've collected about your lead scores, find out where the best lead scores are coming from, get rid of half of everything else that wasn't delivering that, and now you're profitable. Versus, oh shit, it doesn't work. We need to set up offline conversion tracking now. Well, you wasted 6 months worth of time and money. You could have just had that data collecting from the background. In fact, you're not getting half the value out of your ad spend if you're not collecting all the data, particularly for lead generation in B2B, but also B2C as well. All of the results, I cannot stress this enough, is in the data. It's in the data. It's in the data. It's in the data. You can cry and whine and bitch all you want about how it shouldn't be so hard or complicated to get results with Google Ads. You're up against competition. Your competition's been doing it for years already. Do you think you're going to walk into your market and in 2 months take it all away from them? You could take it away from them much sooner with the right data flowing in that tells you stuff that they're not paying attention to that you can hone in on. That's your edge. You got your conversion goal. That's got it taken in your lead score. Eventually, you're going to switch your campaigns to optimize not for leads, but the lead score. High lead score, or whatever's driving the highest lead scores for you. The keywords that are driving the highest lead score, the times of the days of the week, the ages of the user, the keywords, the audiences, the states, the cities, metropolitan areas versus local. All these different ways you can drill your account down. And there's a bunch of other ways I'm not even going to have time to mention, but it's just a matter of then, well, if you got the data, where's it coming from? Where's the good leads coming from? Oh, it's typically 8 a.m. to noon, Monday through Thursday, and it's coming from males that are over 35 years old, and they're searching for these 15 keywords. Boom, you're making money. But until you do that, in a lot of markets, you're never going to make money. So get it out of your head by default. With today's market, and as expensive as traffic is going to be, you're going to get by with no tracking or damn little tracking. The glory days is over where you can just barely try with Google Ads and make a pile of money. Too many people know about it. Google's gotten too greedy as well. Eventually, you switch your campaigns from maximized conversions bidding strategy, because as I mentioned on previous videos, you start out with manual bidding until you get a decent amount of conversions going, let's say 30 overall cumulatively or 10 to 30. Switch your campaigns to maximized conversions bidding strategy, you optimize for leads. Then when you have enough of these lead scores uploaded, I would say a good amount to go for is 100. Then you switch your campaigns over to maximize conversion value bidding strategy. And now it's going to optimize for whatever's driving the highest lead scores. Now, general disclaimer here. When you do this, it's going to shake up your account profitability for a good 60 days. Be prepared for this. There's no way to avoid it, because anytime you make a big change with Google Ads, it's going to send your campaigns back into learning mode. You can't avoid it. But after that 60 days, what you're going to experience is your lead quality is going to get better and better and better. So a lot of people ask about this and they say, well, how much more sales is it going to get me? What it does more than scales you, what you will do, particularly short term, is it will make the lead quality better. And we're talking 2 to 3 times better on average. Can be more, just by doing this simple lead scoring trick. For that matter, you switch it over and just sit back. And the great thing about this is you don't have to do jack shit once this is set up. You just make sure the lead score keeps getting imported by an employee or a virtual assistant, and the lead quality gets better and better and better, and you're spending the same ad spend as you were before, but you're making more and more and more and more and more money. Just simply because the algorithm's getting smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter about what's actually driving the high quality leads. Also, you as a human app optimizer of your ads, you can also make quick snap judgment calls for yourself. If you don't want to wait for the algorithm to eventually figure it all out, you can do things quicker. Oh, let's just go Monday to Friday. Oh, let's just do 45 plus in terms of age demographic. Oh, let's just do these types of keywords that have the word consultant or agency or companies in it, and just those, which you can easily go into even your search terms report and then filter everything that has the word best in it. Does that drive quality leads or not? Okay, let's negate out everything with the word best in it. There's so many different ways you can make the thing work if you just have the data. It's like really impossible to not make it work if you have the right foundation and you have the right data that tells you where the quality leads are coming from after just a few months. That is the process of lead scoring. Now, I've got a case study for you, like I mentioned. Before I wanted to get into that, if you haven't subscribed yet, you absolutely want to do that. I have the best information online about how to make money with ads. You're not going to find better information anywhere else. Why? Because I spend 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm to find out what works, and I share it with you for free on this channel. Most of the other people you're going to find on YouTube and elsewhere, they're running agencies, they're not managing ads themselves, or they're trying to sell courses, they're not managing any ads. Therefore, the information is not useful. And I have to work 80 hours a week to make this possible, work 40 hours a week just on the channel and 40 with the strategy at our firm for our clients' campaigns. Subscribe. Furthermore, I've also got a great blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. You should check that out as well. I write that myself. I also have a Discord group that I've started. You can find a link to that in the description. And you can ask me questions inside the Discord group. I'm active there. And by the way, if you have any questions about anything I'm talking about, you can always leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person that reaches out to me through the comments. You can ask me any marketing related question you'd like there. I'm more than happy and open to sharing my opinion on things. I also, though, of course, you can reach out to me directly for a private consultation. You can reach out to me through my site at guaranteedppc.com, and I'll be happy to set up a coaching or consulting call there with you. The main thing I do, or I'm even able to bring you the amount of data and results I'm bringing you here in terms of what works with Google ads, Facebook ads, online ads in general, is because I work with clients. We manage their campaigns, and what makes us different than everybody else is we offer a free sensual trial at the beginning where you're not paying our agency until we get you a certain minimum lift in your profitability up front. Nobody else does in this entire ad space, which should tell you something about the quality of the service itself. But, and if you're interested in that, I can get you an 8-quarter projection of your results with guarantee tied to it. Just reach out to me through my firm. I also have ad templates available. I've started selling ad templates when I realized a bunch of people, they want to manage their own ads, and they don't want to work with an agency, but they do want to shortcut their way to success though. And if I worked in their market already, they'll buy the template from us. That is, we worked in the plumbing space. You're a plumber. Why not just take what we're using to make millions in one market in Tampa to make it NYC? Makes no sense not to do that. Building it all up from scratch is just stupid, ultimately, when we've got the winning version of how to run ads in that market and landing pages to go along with it and the campaigns. If you're interested in that, let me know. I've got hundreds of templates available. Let me know if you're interested in that. And I can tell you the type of results that we got in your market, or a market, by the way, that you're looking to get into, which it's like literally having a business in a box when you get that template, because you can literally, because the template's so efficient, you could sub out the work or do drop shipping or a number of things and still also make money. Going back to the case study here. So this was an ADA consulting firm. So when I say ADA, I mean, you have a business like a bar, and you need to be able to know if you're compliant with everything. Is the sink a certain height from the floor? Is the bathroom the right dimension? Is the wheelchair ramp set up right? Why? Because there's people out there that are disabled, that work with lawyers to sue businesses that are just slightly not compliant, and this is something to be aware of. They do it with websites too now as well, which I made a separate video just on that topic, where if your website's not ADA compliant, people will say, oh, I can't read your website and I'm blind, so therefore I'm going to sue you. This is the type of consulting this particular client does, but just specialize in this. Of which we ran a campaign for them for 8 months before we started using the lead score to optimize with. Of which, and this is why I said before so much, you do not know your results with Google Ads until you've had enough time to collect data in your account. And you don't collect it for free. You got to advertise to collect it. You do not know what you do not know at the beginning when you start advertising. Of course, you can get out ahead of this a bit more. If you already had a lot of customers, you could take your data about your customers to a third party like Axicom and they'll tell you all the demographics and psychographic traits that match up your customer base. And then so when you set up your ads, you drill down all your ads to just that right away. You could do that. That'd be smart. But either way, you got to find out what's going to work. Before, our average lead score itself was a 1.7 or 1.7K, I should say. And we had a ROAS of 361 at the 8-month point and revenue of 44K. And this is on 12K roughly worth of spend per month. Now, after that, to show you just how much using lead score for a market like this where there is a decent amount difference in one client that comes through or one prospect that comes through and another, we started to use maximize conversion value bidding strategy, like I mentioned before. After another 8 months of utilizing that data and having Google, get more data, utilize it, normalize our results, our average lead score went from that 1.7 to 3.9K on average, because we were using this method right here, the first one, 776% ROAS. So we more than doubled the ROAS, and the revenue went up from 44K to 91K. This shows you just how much of a difference this makes. And like I was trying to stress before, you cannot say a campaign didn't work or Google Ads doesn't work until you've had lead scoring data go in your account, you've collected a decent amount of it, and you utilized it to figure out the 10-20% of what you're doing where you want to focus most. And it's standard. We're going to increase the ROAS or lead quality, however you want to call it or slice it, at least double, if not triple, to where it was before, just simply by using the lead scoring method that I gave you here. It's really that simple, and it doesn't take forever either. Within 6 to 12 months, you can easily double your ROAS or more just by using that lead scoring data and system that I gave you in order to get the lead scoring data. Again, with the preferred method being here. So that's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Whatever you have questions about in the comment section. With that said, I hope that helped you out a lot. I hope you do it, and I'll see you in the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.